Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lemon Live at 5, the show where we interact with you, our subscribers, and our audience and our viewers. We're so happy that you're here. We've got a lot to talk about, of course, because it is debate night in America. And my show is busy preparing us for debate night. We're going to run the entire debate right here on this channel, so you can stream it right here. And then immediately after, around 10:30 Eastern time, we're going to have post-debate coverage. We're going to have analysis. We'll talk about it, and you're going to be able to interact with it as well, okay? So this is a special edition of our show, one where I want to answer all of your questions ahead of the debate. So just, Lemonheads, you got any questions about the debate? Anything you want to know about? Please, please, please put them in the comments. I'm reading them and looking at them right here in the studio on the monitor, okay? And then, so I will answer them for you. So thanks so much. I also have them right here on my phone. We also have some breaking news now. And this breaking news, I'm not sure if you've seen the news. It is concerning Governor Tim Walz, who is running for vice president along with the now Vice President Kamala Harris, that it may prove to be a real problem for him tonight, and a real problem really moving forward in this campaign. It could be a problem. You guys, you know, I know that you get upset and you hate for me. You're like, oh, don't tell me anything. Don't give me any bad news about Vice President Kamala Harris and the Harris-Walz ticket. But we got to tell you about it, okay? So let me update you on what's happening with the debate. I'll give you some ideas of that, and then we're going to talk about this Walz story, and it's about apparently what happened in China. So am I worried about Tim Walz debating, says Kathleen Culp. No, but he has admitted that he's not a good debater. He said that. So are you guys worried? That's my question for you. So first, the debate details. Vice presidential candidates, Governor Tim Walz, Senator JD Vance, they're going to go head-to-head tonight. It's going to be here in New York City, head-to-head on Tuesday night. As the ballots in some states really have already been mailed in weeks before the presidential election, okay? It's going to be hosted by CBS News. The VP debate between Walz, the Democratic nominee, and Vance, the GOP nominee, will be moderated by CBS Evening News anchor and managing editor, Ms. Norah O'Donnell, and Face the Nation moderator and chief foreign affairs correspondent, Margaret Brennan. So you have two women weighing in. Someone said, OMG, no. Yes, I'm not worried about Walz, says Maureen Marfal. Okay, so we'll talk about it, okay? Not worried at all. JD is a tool. All right, well, we'll see. But JD is apparently a good debater. He's a good public speaker, has lots of media training. Tim Walz has said himself that he is not a good debater. He has Pete Buttigieg, transportation secretary, helping him debate. He's the debate coach. So we'll see exactly what happens. Nikki, by the way, I can hear you in my ear. Okay, so here's the thing. That's what's going to happen tonight. I want to know what you think. How bad is Walz News on a scale of 1 to 10 being, 10 being, oh, shite, says CC. Hard to tell at this point. I would say it's between a 5 and a 6. Yeah. So are you worried about Tim Walz in the debate tonight? Are you worried about Tim Walz in the debate tonight? That is the story, what we have up, the poll that we have up in the comments, okay? So answer there. So I want to know what you think about the debate, all right? So we're going to discuss that. But let's talk about this news so that you sort of have an idea of what's going on, so that you can sort of judge how you think he's going to do and whether you think this is going to be a problem and whether you are concerned about it. If it changes your mind at all, if you're concerned, not concerned, whatever it is, okay? So there is this newly unearthed reports. There are these newly unearthed reports that contradict previous claims made by the Minnesota Governor Tim Walz about his travel to China, including a claim that the Democratic vice presidential nominee was in Hong Kong for a teaching position. This was back in 1989. This was during the Tiananmen Square pro-democracy protests that ended in hundreds of protesters killed by the Chinese government, okay? Killed by the Chinese government. It's being reported by a number of different agencies, one of which is CNN. There's another, I think the initial agency to break it, I believe it was the Kansas City Star or something like that. But let me just get more of the reporting. Let me give you some idea of what's going on here. So apparently this all happened, and he is Nebraska-based Star Herald News, okay? The Nebraska-based Herald Star News is the original reporting entity on this story. Does this give you pause? Does this raise eyebrows? So let's go through it. Okay, someone's saying 1989, Meredith Hicks. Well, you know, still, it's 1989, but in reports from even recently, in 2019, he talks about this issue as well, and he makes very similar claims, okay? So Walz previously said that he visited Hong Kong in May of 1989, weeks before the Tiananmen Square massacre in Beijing. During a 2014 hearing of the Congressional Executive Commission on China honoring the 25th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square protests, Walz, then a Minnesota congressman, appeared to recall specific details of his trip to the region at the time. Walz further claimed in a June 2019 radio interview that he was in Hong Kong on June 4 of 1989, the day of the Tiananmen Square massacre. And there is some issues about whether it's true. The discrepancy over Walz's relationship to China comes ahead of Tuesday's vice presidential debate in New York, where Republican allies of Senator JD Vance have signaled that the GOP vice presidential candidate or nominee may use Walz's history in China to attack his rival. Walz regularly organized and chaperoned trips to China during his time as a teacher prior to entering politics. Does this change your mind at all? Shay Smith says, Don, they are pulling for straws. Okay, maybe so, but we have to discuss it. Okay, so this is the radio interview where it is asserted that Tim Walz is lying about being in Hong Kong when he said he was. Here it is.
When did you live in China?
Late 80s.
Okay.
So, you know, I was there. I see this happening in Hong Kong as a more serious note. I was in Hong Kong on June 4th, 1989, when, of course, Tiananmen Square happened. And I was in China after that. It was very strange because, of course, all outside transmissions were blocked, Voice of America, and, of course, there was no phones or email or anything. So I was kind of out of touch. It took me a month to know the Berlin Wall had fallen when I was living there.
What do you think? But apparently, according to these reports, he was not there at the time. As I said, during a 2009 hearing of the Congressional Executive Commission on China to commemorate the Tiananmen Square protests, Walz claimed that he was in Hong Kong at the time, preparing to teach in China. Okay? Walz previously said that he visited Hong Kong in May of 1989, weeks before the Tiananmen Square massacre in Beijing. And then he testified in front of Congress saying similar details. Then in that radio interview in 2019, where he said he was in Hong Kong. During a 2009 hearing of the Congressional Executive Commission on China to commemorate the Tiananmen Square protests, Walz claimed that he was in Hong Kong at the time preparing to teach in China. When asked by CNN if Walz was in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square protests, the Harris campaign was unable to provide evidence to substantiate Walz's claim. Now, look, that's not good if they can't substantiate it, because they would come right out if they could and say, there's no evidence to that, this is untrue, or perhaps the governor misspoke when he's saying that he was there, means that he was in the region at the time, or I was alive and maybe he misspoke. So here's what's going to happen, though. This whole idea about Donald Trump lying, and he does. I have told you that he is a consummate liar. Well, not, he is a pathological liar constantly. He lies constantly. They're going to say, well, what about JD Vance? I mean, what about Tim Walz? Tim Walz He's apparently lied. What about the stolen valor and the gun, the weapons of war? That was one. Being in Hong Kong and Tiananmen Square, and then repeating it. Someone said, Don, you love to agitate. I'm not agitating. I'm just telling you. I know you guys get upset, right? You get mad. You got mad at me, I know, about Joe Biden when I said he was having issues and that he would possibly have to drop out of the race, and this is what happened. So I'm always just going to be honest with you, right? Because I think that you should know. And it has nothing to do with me trying to stir up trouble or anything like that. What it has to do with is me trying to be straight with you and tell you what's going on, okay? So I know that you get upset. You can't misspeak like that, says Rich Buddy. Yeah. Yvette D says, Don, you love to agitate. No one is reporting this on TV news anyway, perhaps on socials. Really? It's CNN is reporting. I haven't watched TV news. But, Don, really, says Allison Jones. Okay, you guys don't, is there any evidence to prove otherwise? Yeah, okay, all right, so let me go into this. I just want to know if you think it's an issue. Just want to know if you think it's an issue, okay? A source close to Walz told CNN that the point Governor Walz is making when he discusses this is that some folks in the World Teach program, discussed dropping out after Tiananmen Square, but he continued on with the program because he believed that it was important for the Chinese people to learn about American democracy and American history. Now, according to the CNN news report, that his claims have been repeated in media, and that there are reports coming from his hometown newspaper that he was actually in his state preparing to take over for a new position at the time. So the evidence, they believe, is coming from the newspapers in his own state. An issue of the Alliance Times-Herald dated May 16, 1989 features a photo of Walz touring a Nebraska National Guard storeroom. In the photo caption, the paper notes that Walz will take over the job of staffing the storeroom from retiring guardsmen and will be moving to Alliance, Nebraska. A separate newspaper article about Walz's planned trip to China, published by a Nebraska-based outlet in April of 1989, reported that he planned to travel to China in early August of that year. That's the issue at hand. The real Donald Rose says, why is this coming out today? Wow. Look, I don't know. I'm just telling you. I'm just here reporting, okay? Now, Tim Walz is going to have to address this tonight during the debate, because you know JD Vance is going to bring it up. And if JD Vance didn't bring it up, then he would not be doing his job there on stage. Of course they're going to bring it up. And they have already said that they were planning to bring something like this up during the debate, and this is now more fodder for them to be able to bring it up. Okay? I want to go to when Tim Walz, what they believe was his first tryout for a VP, when he came up with this whole idea about weird. This is sort of when he came to prominence from this appearance on MSNBC a couple months ago. Watch.
I know is that people like JD Vance know nothing about small town America. My town had 400 people in it, 24 kids in my graduating class, 12 were cousins, and he gets it all wrong. It's not about hate. It's not about collapsing in. The golden rule there is mind your own damn business. Their policies are what destroyed rural America. They've divided us. They're in our exam rooms. They're telling us what books to read. And I think what Kamala Harris knows is bringing people together around the shared values, strong public schools, strong labor unions that create elevate the middle class, healthcare that's affordable and accessible. Those are the things. You look what they're talking about. They went right to division. They did not give us a plan on healthcare. Donald Trump talked about infrastructure. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris built bridges, built roads. So I think this is going back to the bread and butter, getting away from this division. We do not like what has happened where we can't even go to Thanksgiving dinner with our uncle because you end up in some weird fight that is unnecessary. and I think bringing back people together, well, it's true. These guys are just weird. And it's, you know, they're running for He-Man Women Haters Club or something. That's what they go at. That's not what people are interested in. And there is angst.
That was the first interview where they believed that, hey, they were like, oh, this guy's pretty good. And that's where he came up with that, you know, weird moniker for the Republicans, for JD Vance and for Donald Trump, and really for MAGA, okay? So that's when that happened. And because he was so strong in that interview, Republicans believe that there is, you know, that's what makes them concerned. Because they think he's a strong speaker, he can come up with a good narrative, he's a great politician, he's a great retail politician, so they are concerned. So JD Vance will bring it up tonight, right? Because this is a guy that really stuck him with the whole weird thing. Now, we can talk all we want about Tim Walz, and we will. We'll continue to talk about that. But just remember, let's keep it in perspective, right? Of the things, this is a one thing that Tim Walz may have a problem with. This is the one thing. And trust me, if it's true, it's a big thing. Lying about something like that is a big thing. It really is. People have lost their jobs for embellishing and for saying that they were in one place or something happened and it didn't. Remember when Hillary Clinton got in trouble saying they were under fire when they got off of a helicopter or whatever? And as it turns out, it didn't happen. Sometimes people remember things and I don't know why that didn't happen. But, so that's going to be an issue for him tonight. But JD Vance has said some stuff, and we're going to talk about this. One of the things that he said lately, it talks about, thank you, Happy, I appreciate. CNN doesn't count when it comes to speaking truths and seeing, let's finish it up, what she says. CNN doesn't count when it comes to speaking truths, seeing that they lied on Don. Grump is a convicted felon assistant, I don't know that, in Davenport Freak. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I wasn't sure where you were going with that, but I appreciate your support. Thank you so much, Happy, for supporting independent media, as well as Hummingbird. Thank you so much for supporting independent media. Thank you. You guys know we stay on the air. We can stay streaming because of people like Happy and people like Hummingbird, because we don't have big corporate sponsorships behind us or a big corporation. So thank you for that. But so JD Vance is, you know, talking about, and I quote here, the inconvenience of rape. Here it is.
Should a woman be forced to carry a child to term after she has been the victim of incest or rape?
Look, my view on this has been very clear, and I think the question betrays a certain presumption that's wrong. It's not whether a woman should be forced to bring a child to term, it's whether a child should be allowed to live, even though the circumstances of that child's birth are somehow inconvenient or a problem to the society.
The circumstances of that child's birth are inconvenient and inconvenient to the society. Okay. If that's not enough, JD Vance talking about childless people are sociopathic and deranged. Here it is.
There's just these basic cadences of life that I think are really powerful and really, really valuable when you have kids in your life. And the fact that so many people, especially in America's leadership class, just don't have that in their lives, you know, I worry that it makes people more sociopathic and ultimately our whole country a little bit less less mentally stable. And of course, you talk about going on Twitter. Final point I'll make is you go on Twitter, and almost always the people who are most deranged and most psychotic are people who don't have kids at home.
What is this obsession with people who don't have kids and being deranged and psychotic? I know a lot of people who don't have kids. Look, you can have kids or not have kids, right? And it's great if you want to have kids, but I also think it's great if you don't want to have kids, because some people who don't want to have kids are like, I don't want it. There are enough kids in the world already. I don't think that I'm ready for that responsibility, which is a responsible thing to do if you know that you're not ready to be a parent, and some people just don't want to be a parent. Crazy talk. It is crazy talk. And I don't know, again, what is his obsession with people who don't have kids, especially women? He actually says that people who don't have kids, get this, do you have kids? Let me know in the comments. People who don't have kids, and that means me, should be taxed more.
Problem.
I think it's simple, and I'll go back to something I said earlier about we need to reward the things that we think are good and punish the things that we think are bad. So you talk about tax policy. Let's tax the things that are bad and not tax the things that are good. If you're making $100,000, $400,000 a year, and you've got 3 kids, you should pay a different, lower tax rate than if you're making the same amount of money and you don't have any kids. It's that simple.
I totally agree.
So there you go. And that was on Charlie Kirk's show. And you know about Charlie Kirk. He's an extremist, sort of right-wing propagandist and fraudster. Let's leave it propagandist. Crazy. So look, there are 2 people who are going to be up on that stage tonight. One of them is in new trouble for allegedly lying about where they were during the Tiananmen Square massacre and incident, and apparently has been allegedly lying about it since the late 80s, early 90s, up until now. Oh, also, Kristen Thompson, thank you. You said that yesterday's Hot Topics was removed by NBC. Yes, they were not happy that we used SNL. So we took it off. It's back up if you want to go watch it. It's back up. I don't know why. Come on, SNL. Give us a break, man. We're trying to show. We're trying to help you guys out. You need some of our ratings. Okay, so that is what JD Vance is doing. Now, I want to preview Walz attacking Vance to give you an indication of what may happen tonight. Here it is.
Like all regular people I grew up with in the heartland, JD studied at Yale, had his career funded by Silicon Valley billionaires, and then wrote a bestseller trashing that community. Come on! That's not what middle America is. And I gotta tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy. That is if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. So, you see what I did there?
Funny. So all that's good. That's all well and good. But listen, you have to be a good debater. You have to stand on that stage. You have to do it in the time limit that they give you. You have to answer the questions. And if you're not answering it, you have to be pretty savvy about the way that you pivot and change the conversation. The Vice President Kamala Harris was really good. She was able to provoke and trigger the former President Donald Trump. I don't know if JD Vance will be rattled like that, or I don't know if Tim Walz will be rattled, if he's able to be triggered. If Tim Walz keeps needling, if JD Vance keeps needling Tim Walz about telling the truth, then that's going to be problematic. So really, under 600 likes with so many people watching or streaming, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, hit the likes. We really appreciate it. I agree, Don Waltz is a liar, says Joel Guzman. Heather Maxey says Vance is weird and he will be walked on. We'll see. Shady Vance has mommy issues, says E. Dean. I like Shady Vance. Nobody is perfect, says Kleiber. Okay, so all of that's well and good. But again, I'm telling you, it's going to be an issue tonight, so look for him to get hit on that, and they better come up with a clever way or something for him to say, either to get out in front of it or to be able to confront it when JD Vance throws it right in his face. Okay? Now, Kellyanne Conway, who was Trump's campaign manager, as you know, back during the 2016 campaign when he won, she is speaking out and saying, look, she thinks everything that's negative, all of this negative press and attention and people talking about the childless cat ladies and all of it, she believes that it is playing in JD Vance's favor and that he will do a good job in the debate because of it. Watch this.
And other Democrats did a really stupid thing with J.D. Walz. They tried to drown him out in the first 2 days after Trump picked him. They turned the spigot full blast. That's not how you hurt someone. You hurt them drip by drip, but they said, let's just put it all out there. And he survived. He thought Trump would just leave him out to sea with no lifeboat. The opposite happened. He got bigger, bolder, stronger. The campaign said today, Jesse, that Vance has done more than 100 interviews.
Wow.
That's the preparation you need, that muscle memory, taking the tough questions, shagging the flies, not always having the best day, but understanding how to do it the next time. Walz has been hiding, not in the basement in plain view. Michigan-Minnesota game, he gets booed. Trump goes to the Alabama-Georgia game. You would have thought he was the quarterback throwing the Hail Mary on the fourth down. So I have high expectations for J.D. Walz tomorrow. And I think that Kamala is always looking for someone to blame. He's going to be able to blame Walz.
This is set up
Trump
for
today.
him to take
Yes,
the
why not?
fall if she loses.
I think that Kamala picked Walz for much the same reason that Biden picked Kamala. Let me pick one of 3 people in the whole country who can't upstage me.
Can you stop it right
Most
there?
people would outshine them.
Please. Does she keep saying J.D. Walz? Does anybody notice that? It sounds to me like she's saying J.D. Walz unless she's saying J.D. Vance and my earpiece isn't picking up. Did anybody hear that? I think twice. J.D. Walz. Stuart Brooks says, who is J.D. Walz? I've heard her say it 2 or 3 times in that soundbite. J.D. Walz, huh? Are you guys hearing that? Is it just me? Is that what she's actually saying? She did say that. She said it a couple of times. I think she's called him J.D. Walz the entire thing. All right, let's pick it up and hear more.
She also thought that Walz, I think Tim Walz is also what most liberals, most Trump-hating liberals in this country think a white guy from the Midwest looks like. It's like, let's get people in the Rust Belt. We'll have Tim Walz. He's one of them, yes, sirree. Meanwhile, it's President Trump who's, when asked, what's your plan for J.D. Vance as your running mate? He said, quote, I think I'll park him in Pennsylvania. And now Trump is actually winning Pennsylvania. Kamala's going to struggle with the union households, the Catholic households, anybody who touches and concerns fracking and cares about anybody who's in the energy industry. I asked President Trump today, I interviewed for an hour. I said to him, the guy I know, you, is not going to be able to sit still after a 90-minute VP debate and let that be the last word in presidential debates. You're going to say, well, when's our next one? And I hope he does that.
What do you think? Do you think there's going to be another debate with Harris?
He had said no, but he didn't say totally no. That October 23rd one was CNN's too late. But why not get back in there? Trump's like, I told him, you're like Shohei Ohtani. You're pitching, you're batting, you've done 7 of them.
Stop. Okay, so she's saying she's thinking now that Donald Trump is going to want to do a debate, and perhaps he'll be inspired by the news on Tim Walz to get back in there because he thinks he can hit the vice president on her pick. You picked a guy who doesn't tell the truth. That's what I believe, that if he does get back in there and he does a debate. Look, it's the first day of October, and it is a month of October surprise. And on the first day, we have an October surprise. If you can re-rack that, I want to just make sure that I heard the J.D. Walz. And so play it back as soon as you get it, but I want to make sure that there's...
They tried to drown him out in the first 2 days after Trump picked him. They turned the spigot full blast. That's not how you hurt someone. You hurt them drip by drip, but they said, let's just put it all out there. And he survived. He thought Trump would just leave him out to sea with no lifeboat. The opposite happened. He got bigger, bolder, stronger. The campaign said today, Jesse, that Vance has done more than 100 interviews.
Wow.
That's the preparation you need, that muscle memory, taking the tough questions, shagging the flies, not always having the best day, but understanding how to do it the next time. Walz has been hiding, not in the basement in plain view. Michigan-Minnesota game, he gets booed. Trump goes to the Alabama-Georgia game. You would have thought he was the quarterback throwing the Hail Mary on the fourth down. So I have high expectations for J.D. Walz tomorrow.
Okay.
And
she did. She said J.D. Walz. That's what she said. Now listen, let me tell you, and I've said this before, you got to give credit where credit is due. JD Vance is out there working. When Donald Trump is on the golf course, JD Vance is going, he's doing interviews, he's on the Sunday shows, he's on MSNBC. I don't know if they even, I'm not sure if he's on MSNBC. He goes to NBC, he goes on CNN, he goes on all of the Sunday shows on broadcast and cable. He's doing local interviews, he's going to local diners and restaurants or whatever, okay? So he's out there, and she's right about that. And the best practice that you can get is taking questions from reporters and being out front and just being out there answering questions from people, because you're like, okay, if this comes up, this is what I'll say. If this comes up, this is what I'll say. If this comes up, and then sometimes on the fly, you come up with an answer. So Kellyanne Conway is right about that. But we'll see what happens when he's standing on stage next to Tim Walz. Okay? Melina _NC says something interesting. By the way, Melina, thank you for supporting independent media. She says, hey, Don, I'm supporting Harris Walz like MAGA blindly supports Trump Vance, period. Love you, Don. Hashtag Lemonheads. Okay, so you know what they always say, Republicans fall in lines, Democrats don't. Democrats wet the bed, but maybe now Democrats have taken a page from the Republicans, especially the MAGA Republicans, and now they are just going to fall in line. In this news about Tim Walz, maybe it won't penetrate. We'll see if it affects the polls, and we'll see if it affects the debate coming up tonight. Okay, now I said to you that we were busy preparing for our show and the debate tonight, so we're going to, again, remember, you're going to, Melina, good response. Thank you. I'm reading the comments. Thank you. Okay. And Melina, okay, kudos to you. Here's the thing. So we're getting ready. We got to change over the studio and fix everything up and get ready for the debate tonight. You can, at 9 Eastern, you can watch the entire thing here without a distraction, commercials, or any of that stuff. You can watch it live on the Don Lemon Show channel on YouTube. Watch it live. And then immediately following is our best shows, usually debate, when we do our post-debate coverage, where we talk to you or you talk to us, and we get to discuss everyone. And I'm going to have a team of people here, a panel of people who you are going to want to hear from, and we're going to want to hear from you. So we'll see you here live for the debate at 9, and then directly following the debate, our post-debate coverage, okay? Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you hit the likes. I appreciate it. And by the way, make sure that you tune in tomorrow for, I'm trying to get something over here. That's not, that you tune in tomorrow for the Sherry Shepherd Show. Sherry Shepherd. Make sure you tune in where I was on talking about my book to my friend Sherry Shepherd, and it was fantastic. You're going to want to watch this show. It was great, okay? And thanks to all of you last night who tuned in to Shop Talk Live, because we got to talk. We had a great conversation. I did it from my living room, and we sold a bunch of books last night. You guys will read it and you're into it. And I promise you we're going to have a little book club and some reading as soon as a little bit of this political news dies down, and maybe next week, or later in the week, or perhaps weekend is probably better for that, where we can do this and we can have a book reading and talk about some of the things here, and we don't have to talk about all the politics, okay? So thank you guys. Hit the thumbs up, hit the likes. 250,000. Thank you so much. I said I would read a lot of your comments, and I have. And thank you for supporting Lemonation and getting us to 250,000 subscribers, okay? So I'll see you tonight for the debate and then the post-debate show, okay? Take it easy. Bye. See you later.